My mom worked and went to see me when I was born, which was about 6 weeks before the big show I Love Lucy started airing. Lucille Ball, whose public image was that of a happy comedian, had a secret and scandalous side that went along with her on-screen persona. Shocked when her daughter revealed some dark parts of her life. This news has left her fans in shock. Watch the video to find out what the shocking details are that Lucille Ball's daughter shared. Lucille Ball's daughter makes us feel sorry for her mother with a poignant story from her past. The truth is that Lucille Ball did not come from a particularly funny or even happy family background. Her early years were marked by significant loss and upheaval. When she was only 4, her father died in a tragic accident, which had a huge impact on her. After her father died, Ball's mother remarried, which brought more changes into the young girl's life. She was sent to live with her stepfather's grandparents, which was very different from the life she had known. In an interview with the Saturday Evening Post, Ball talked about how her new guardians followed tradition from old country. Their ideas and ways of raising children were strict. This setting, with its strict rules and lack of warmth, was not good for the nurturing that a young child needs. Ball noticed that while her step-grandparents were kind and loving to other children, they did not do the same for her. They thought that being strict with her would teach her discipline, but it didn't work for Ball. She grew up without much love or support, which made her feel frustrated and longing for acceptance. She described this time as one of reaching out and trying to please, which was a feeling that radically changed her personality and future career. It was during these difficult times that Ball discovered the transformative power of humor. Making people laugh became her way of dealing with the emotional neglect she felt. Humor gave her a way to connect with others, win their approval, and feel valued. Luckily, Ball's natural comedic talent wasn't lost on them. The principal of her school saw her potential and made sure she was cast in school musicals and plays. This early support was very important in shaping Ball's career in the performing arts. Her involvement in these school productions helped her improve her skills and gain confidence in her abilities. It was in these productions that Ball first felt the joy and satisfaction of entertaining an audience. In addition to Ball's school principal support, her strict stepparents also helped her develop her artistic skills. They saw how much she loved the arts and encouraged her to pursue them, which was a key step on her path to becoming one of the artists. On July 4, 1927, Lucille Ball's life was forever changed by a terrible accident that cast a long shadow over her childhood. That day, Ball's grandfather was in the backyard teaching her brother how to use a brand new .22 caliber rifle, which was a birthday present for Ball's brother Freddie, who was about to turn 12. Ball vividly remembered the event in her autobiography, memoir describing how carefully her grandfather had set up a tin can target for the lesson as the family gathered in the backyard. The mood was likely one of excitement and anticipation, typical of a summer's day celebration. However, this innocent scene took a terrible turn when one of Freddie's friends accidentally shot an 8-year-old neighbor while aiming at the target. The bullet hit the child. Boy's spinal cord was severed, leaving him paralyzed for life. The accident was terrible for everyone, but it was especially bad for the Ball family. The boy's family sued Ball's grandfather, which was a terrible financial and emotional disaster. In her memoir, Ball wrote about how the lawsuit took away almost everything her family owned. They lost their house, acquired furniture that her mother Dee had bought on credit over time and with their insurance. The lawsuit not only cost them money, it also had a profound emotional impact on Ball's grandfather, who never worked again after the accident. The loss of their home and belongings caused a big drop in their family's wealth and stability. Ball poignantly said that the accident took the heart out of him, which perfectly captures the deep psychological effect the accident had on him. Was a man who had taken pride in taking care of his family and providing for them. The accident and the lawsuit that followed took away his ability to do these things, leaving him a shell of his former self. If it weren't for Lucille Ball's daughter, we wouldn't know this terrible fact at the start of her career. Lucille Ball was a poor actress. Ball's rise to fame was marked by hardship and determination, telling a classic story of persistence. When she first went to Los Angeles, California, to follow her artistic dreams, She found herself in the middle of the straits, far from the glitz and glamour that would later define her career. Ball's early experiences in Hollywood were marked by hardship and uncertainty, as she told famed celebrity interviewers David Fantel and Tom Johnson. Honestly talked about her early years in Los Angeles. "I literally starved," she admitted, describing a time of extreme poverty and hunger. At the time, Ball was young, inexperienced, and unsure of herself. She had grown up in a small town and lost her father when she was young. She wasn't ready for the harsh realities of life in Hollywood. Her only experience in the entertainment industry was with vaudeville, a popular form of theatrical variety entertainment that had already declined by the time Ball got to Hollywood. Despite these problems, Ball's drive to succeed never wavered. She quickly realized that vaudeville was no longer a realistic option and had to find other ways to make money. "Lack of food and work forced me into modeling," she recalled. Modeling was a way for Ball to make money, but it wasn't her true passion. She did it out of necessity rather than ambition, but it gave her a foothold in the entertainment industry and helped her make connections and get noticed. It led her to her first job in Hollywood as a showgirl, which, while not glamorous, was an important step because it gave her a chance to show off her skills and start making connections in the entertainment industry. She had only planned to stay in Southern California for 6 weeks, but the opportunities she found there made her decide to stay in Hollywood. Lucille Ball broke many barriers in her career, but one of the most famous and culturally important things she did was go on TV while clearly pregnant. This was during a time when talking about pregnancy in public was frowned upon. Ball's decision to show her real-life pregnancy on TV was nothing short of revolutionary. This bold move not only challenged social norms and set an example for future generations of women in the entertainment industry when Lucille Ball and her husband Desi Arnaz chose to include her pregnancy in their hit TV show I Love Lucy. At the time, they faced a lot of opposition to the idea of showing a pregnant woman on the show. Many people thought it was inappropriate for a pregnant woman to be on TV, but Ball and Arnaz were determined to show this natural part of life as it really is. They asked CBS for permission to show the pregnancy on screen, but the executives were hesitant because they were afraid of backlash from conservative viewers and sponsors. To get around these problems, Ball and Arnaz went to great lengths. They enlisted the help of a priest, a minister, and a rabbi had to sign off on every episode that mentioned the pregnancy. This was done to appeal to a range of religious and moral views at the time. It also emphasized how serious the situation was and how Ball was breaking down social barriers. Despite the initial problems, the network eventually agreed, and Ball's pregnancy was written into the show, making her one of the first women to appear visibly pregnant on TV. What's less well known about Ball is how open she was about a personal tragedy she went through right before the success of I Love Lucy. Ball had a miscarriage, which had a big impact on her and Arnaz in the movie. After this loss, the couple decided to take their new show to vaudeville. Part of the reason for this was Ball's need to deal with her grief over losing their child. She found that performing and interacting with live audiences helped her deal with her feelings and channel them into her work. Ball's honesty went beyond her experiences with pregnancy, and she was also honest about her birth experiences. In an interview with the Saturday Evening Post, Ball said that her first child, Lucy, was born through a cesarean section. She also said that her second child, Desire, was also delivered through a cesarean section. Ball's honesty about her childbirth experiences was unusual at the time, and it helped break the silence around women's health issues. "If your baby is going to be a cesarean baby, it helps you call the shots," she said, stressing how important it is to be informed and ready for childbirth. When asked to compare Lucille Ball in real life to her character in movies, her daughter confirmed that there is a big difference. Everyone agrees that Lucille Ball left a lasting impression on audiences with her perfect comedic timing and larger-than-life personality. According to Pamela Mason Wagner, the director of the bio-documentary Finding Lucy Ball, Ball was a complicated person whose real life was very different from how she played herself on screen. In an interview with American Masters, Wagner talked about how mysterious Lucille Ball was, saying that she was full of contradictions, which has led to a lot of confusion. Wagner said that even though Ball was one of the funniest actresses of her time, she wasn't naturally funny in her personal life. She was funny on TV, but she couldn't tell a joke in real life, and she was very serious. Wagner said that this surprising revelation paints a picture of a woman whose offstage personality was more reserved and contemplative than her exuberant TV personality. Ball had a complicated personality that showed in her work as well. Even though she was one of the most powerful businesswomen in Hollywood, she never seemed completely at ease with her own authority. She and her husband Desi Arnaz started DZL Productions, a groundbreaking company that changed the television industry. Desi was in charge of creating and producing. Despite Ball's many accomplishments, including I Love Lucy, The Untouchables, and Star Trek, she approached her business empire with a sense of unease. Wagner said that Ball's discomfort with her power was clear in how she moved through Hollywood. She became one of the most successful businesswomen in Hollywood, but she was never comfortable with her own power. Wagner said this paradox shows the tension between Ball's public and private lives. Because she was a woman working in an industry, mostly men, Ball had to find ways to assert herself that were often seen as weak. Even as she broke barriers and set new standards in the industry, she struggled with the weight of her responsibilities and the expectations that were put on her. Ball's reluctance to accept her influence may have had something to do with the gender norms of the time. Her journey wasn't easy. She had to deal with many problems at work and in her personal life. Despite these problems, Ball's determination and resilience shone through in her ability to handle the complexities of her career while keeping a sense of seriousness and humility. Now it's time for Lucille Ball's daughter to shed some light on her mother. Sheds light on the long-running fight between Vivian Vance and her mother. Lucille Ball and Desi Arnaz were the show's famous stars, but Vivian Vance and William Foley, who played Ethel and Fred MZ, were just as important to the show's success. The relationships between the characters on screen created memorable comedic moments, but their real-life relationships were complicated. Some fights happened, especially between Vance and Foley, but the rumored rivalry between Ball and Vance is not true, as confirmed by people close to the stars. Vivian Vance and Lucille Ball did not have a hostile relationship, as many people thought. In fact, celebrity interviewer Tom Johnson said that Ball held Vance in high regard and loved her very much. According to an interview with Fox News, Vivian Vance was the only person she would really watch when she watched her own TV shows. This shows how much she admired Vance's talent. Ball saw Vance's comedic skills and valued her as a co-star and a friend. In 1988, producer Mike Chapman reached out to Brian Connelly, Steve Priest, Andy Scott, and Mick Tucker with an offer to pay for a recording session in Los Angeles. Chapman remembered meeting them at the airport and being surprised by Connelly's appearance. "I met them at the airport. And when Andy and Mick got off the plane, I asked, 'Where's Brian?' And they said, 'Oh, he's coming by the time,'" Chapman said. "After everyone got off the plane, this weak, ghostly figure hobbled towards us. I thought, oh my God, that's so scary. Even though they had recorded updated versions of Action and the Ballroom Blitz, it turned into." It was clear that Connelly's declining health and voice made it too hard to successfully promote the reunion commercially, which is why the project was shelved in 1990. In 1990, this lineup got back together to promote a music documentary called Sweet's Ballroom Blitz. The UK video release, which included performances from the 1970s and interviews with Connelly, was released at. Brian Connelly died on February 9, 1997, at the age of 51. He had liver failure and multiple heart attacks, both of which were caused by his heavy drinking in the 1970s. He had been on Power Hour and Super Channel during this time talking about the possibility of a reunion. In the early 1980s, Mock Tucker died of leukemia on February 14, 2020, at the age of 54. On June 4, 2020, Steve Priest also died, leaving Andy Scott as the only member of Sweet's original lineup who is still alive. In January 1997, Brian Connelly had a heart attack and died. After being admitted to the hospital in Slough, he chose to leave himself after a week of treatment, but his condition got worse, so he had to go back the next week. Connelly died around midnight on February 9th and 10th, 1997 from kidney and liver failure, which was made worse by repeated heart attacks. He was 51 years old. On February 17, 1997, he was cremated after a ceremony at Most Holy Name. His daughters Nola and Michelle scattered his ashes over the water at the Roman Catholic Church on Old Mill Road in Denham, Buckinghamshire. He was also survived by his ex-wife Marilyn, his girlfriend Jean, and their one-year-old son Brian, who was born on May 26, 1995. To honor Connelly's life, fans put together a memorial concert at London's Camden Palace on October 11, 1998, and donated money to honor him with a plaque. The plaque for the late musician was unveiled on February 9, 2000, at the Breakspear Crematorium on Shakespeare Road, Ruislip Middle. In 2013, Connelly's son Brian Jr. made an appearance on the popular TV talent show The X Factor. Brian Jr.'s mother Jean has since remarried and now lives in Spain with former band member Glenn Williams. In the later years of the suite, two different versions of Sight continued to perform with original members Andy Scott's Sight, which often tours across Europe and sometimes ventures into other markets, like regular trips to Australia, and Steve Priest's Suite, which focused on touring the US and Canada. On April 28, 2009, Shout Factory released Action the Suite Anthology, a two-disc greatest hits album that covers the band's entire career. Rolling Stone gave the album 4 stars during an October 2012 appearance on Jimmy Kimmel. Liv Axl Rose, lead singer of Guns N' Roses, said that Sweet was one of his favorite bands when he was growing up with the British band Queen. As we think about Brian Connelly's amazing journey and the challenges he faced, it's clear that his legacy continues to resonate with fans around the world, from his energetic performances with Sweet to the personal struggles that he faced in his later years. Connelly's story is both inspiring and moving, and we'd love to hear your thoughts on his life and work. What parts of his life do you find most interesting or moving? Let us know in the comments below. If you like this look into the tragic life and death of Brian Connelly, please like and subscribe for more content about famous people in music history. Stay tuned for more stories that go deep into the lives and legacies of famous artists. Lucille Ball, on the other hand, saw potential where others saw only danger. Even though it meant going against her board of directors, Ball made sure that the expensive pilot for Star Trek was made. NBC initially turned down the pilot, which would have discouraged many, but Ball's determination and vision for the show did not waver. She even went so far as to commission a. She partly paid for the second pilot with her own money, which had never been done before. This showed how much she believed in Roddenberry's vision and how committed she was to supporting new content. NBC approved the second pilot, which led to the launch of Star Trek. The decision was a turning point in the history of television. Star Trek went on to become one of the most popular and influential entertainment franchises. It had a huge effect on science fiction and pop culture, and Lucille Ball's faith and financial support were a big part of its success. Former studio executive Ed Hawley and coin historian Stephen Sanders have both written about this. Sanders, writing in Entertainment Weekly, said, "If it weren't for Lucy, there would be no Star Trek today. This honor shows how important Ball was to the show's legacy and how influential she was as a Hollywood star." Lucille Ball and Desi Arnaz are still one of the most famous couples in movie history, and not just because of their on-screen relationship. I Love Lucy and their marriage made it normal for people of different races to work together on TV at a time when that wasn't usually shown in mainstream media. Ball, a white actress, and Arnaz, a Cuban-American musician and actor, formed a partnership that captivated audiences and made television history. Their relationship started with a whirlwind courtship that Ball vividly described in an interview with The Saturday Evening Post wrote, "I met Desi Arnaz at the RKO studio in May 1940. The attraction was immediate and mutual. He asked me out that same night, highlighting the instant spark between them. Their relationship quickly grew, leading to a marriage that same year." Ball's memory emphasizes the intensity and spontaneity of their early relationship. "Pretty soon we were married," she said, highlighting the quick transition from meeting to marriage. Marrying Arnaz wasn't easy, though, despite their deep connection. Arnaz was often carefree and reckless. Behavior caused problems. Ball's first car ride with him left an impression. He scared me, she said, describing how his fast and risky driving made her worry about her safety. Arnaz's wild personality went beyond his driving habits and often showed up in other parts of his life. Marrying Desi was the Considering the risks involved, Ball and Arnaz's marriage lasted for 20 years, a time of both professional and personal ups and downs. Together they created I Love Lucy, a show that changed the way people watch comedy on TV and became a cultural phenomenon. Their real-life marriage was a lot like Lucy and Andy's relationship on the show. Ricky Ricardo entertained audiences with a mix of humor, love, and occasional conflict. However, their marriage was under a lot of stress because Arnaz liked drinking and having extramarital affairs. According to history, these problems ended the couple's marriage, even though they were both successful and loved each other very much. Their cheating and drinking problems caused a rift that couldn't be fixed, and they got divorced in 1960. Even though Desi Arnaz wasn't the best husband in the world, after his marriage to Lucille Ball ended, they stayed very friendly with each other. Ball talked about this in an interview with People magazine, saying that they always maintained a friendly rapport, which shows how long-lasting their relationship was. Ball and Arnaz continued to see each other in social settings after their divorce, which shows that they respected each other and wanted to end their relationship without unnecessary conflict. Ball's comments about Arnaz's second wife being a nice girl are another sign that they didn't still dislike each other. It's rare for people to be able to keep a civil and even friendly relationship after a divorce, especially given how public their lives are and how troubled their marriage was. Lucille Ball moved on to find happiness in a new relationship. In 1961, she married comedian Gary Morton, who brought a different kind of stability and happiness into her life. Ball told People that Morton was a naturally moderate person who didn't always look for excitement or distraction elsewhere. He doesn't think the grass is greener elsewhere, she said. Morton was happy and loyal, but Arnaz was always busy with work and play. Morton liked the stability and comfort of home life. He's not a workaholic or a playaholic, and he loves his home, Ball said, comparing Morton's grounded personality to Arnaz's more restless spirit. Ball's thoughts on Arnaz after their divorce showed a more complex picture of his personality. She praised his generosity, pointing out that he built many houses but never lived in any of them. This metaphor shows how much Arnaz liked to create and give, but also how he couldn't find personal happiness. Even though they had a rough marriage, Ball's words showed how much she valued AR as a person, even if he couldn't give her the stability she eventually found with Morton. Ball and Morton were married for 28 years, until she died in 1989. Their long marriage shows how well they got along and how much they loved each other. Morton's presence in Ball's life gave her the sense of. Independent reported that Morton died 10 years after Ball, leaving behind a legacy of the lasting love and companionship they had. Maybe you didn't know that Lucille Ball's daughter said her mother was once accused of being a communist? In the late 1940s and early 1950s, America was gripped by a widespread fear of people who were communist. During the Red Scare, politicians and the public were on high alert, looking closely at anyone they thought might have ties to communism. Even Hollywood, which is a major cultural force, was not immune to this intense scrutiny. The House Un-American Activities Committee (SHUT) Act put the entertainment industry under the microscope. The climate of fear and suspicion affected many in the. During this troubled time, many people in the entertainment industry, including Lucille Ball, were afraid. In an interview with the Television Academy Foundation, Dan K.H., the editor of I Love Lucy, talked about how anxious Hollywood was during the early seasons of the show. He remembered how fear was so strong that even a famous person like Lucille Ball was being questioned. Some even called her a communist con artist. This shows how the fear of. Some of the most famous and successful people in Hollywood were also infiltrated by communists. The accusations against Ball came from the widespread paranoia that accompanied the Red Scare. Hollywood professionals, such as actors, directors, and writers, were under a lot of pressure to prove their loyalty to the United States. This scrutiny wasn't just an idea people were called to testify before Husk and others, which had a real impact on their careers, blacklisting that could ruin their careers. For Lucille Ball, the accusations came from a connection to the Communist Party that seemed harmless. Kahn explained that Ball didn't really have any ties to communism, but her involvement was misunderstood because her grandfather was a socialist and she signed a card to the Communist Party for him to keep him quiet. During the Red Scare, things that were done out of family loyalty rather than political conviction were misunderstood and became a source of disagreement. Lucille Ball's daughter also said that her mother was related to people who were accused of being witches in Salem. The Salem witch trials, which happened in the late 1700s, are one of the most famous examples of mass hysteria in American history. 19 people, 14 women, 5 men, and 2 dogs who were also accused of witchcraft were put to death in Salem, Massachusetts, from 1692 to 1693. These trials were a frenzy of accusations against a huge number of people. Between 144 and 185 people were accused of practicing witchcraft. The accused were of all ages and social classes. 5-year-old girls to 80-year-olds were put through the trials, which were fueled by superstition, fear, and personal grudges. They left a lasting mark on American history. Interestingly, the Salem witch trials have a connection to modern times that goes beyond historical reflection. Arthur Miller, a famous playwright best known for works like Death of a Salesman, saw similarities between the witch hunts in Salem and the McCarthy-era investigations of alleged communists in the 1950s. His 1953 play The Crucible is a dramatic retelling of the trials and serves as a metaphor for the anti-communist hysteria of his own time. Miller's work shows how fear and suspicion can have terrible effects, just like the witch hunts did to people and communities. What's especially interesting is how these historical trials are linked to a number of famous people in American history, including Lucille Ball and other well-known people. Americans like Clara Barton, who started the American Red Cross, and Walt Disney, who created Disney, are related to people who were accused during the Salem witch trials. This genealogical connection adds a new and moving dimension to the story of the trials. What do you think about Lucille Ball's daughter's rare revelations about her mother? Let us know in the comments section below. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.